Welcome to the Daily Shift. You heard that right. The Daily Shift. The show where we block out the noise and speak truth, train your mind, and help you become the absolute best version of yourself. Leo and Andrew are on their way. You're in the right place. And while you're here, take a breath. We're about to dive in. The show starts in 30 seconds. You ready? Take a deep breath in and breathe it out. Prepare for your shift.
What is up? Ooh, Mike. What is up, beautiful people? We are talking about self-love, self-respect, and why you still don't respect yourself and how ultimately you can fix that today. The main issue that I want to cover is that most men think that they have a discipline problem or a motivation problem, but what they really have is a self-respect problem. So today's talk isn't going to be about self-love in the soft or fluffy way that you've heard. It's going to be more about mental order. It's going to be about spiritual truth and the real reason that most men feel stuck. So we have 4 quick sections that I'm going to walk you through, and it's going to show you exactly how to love yourself as a man and fix your life. So number 1, type it in the chat. Self-love is mental order. Self-love is mental order. So we've been lied to for so many years about self-love because it's not about skipping the gym or binge watching YouTube and calling it rest. Real self-love is a topic I want to bring up about mental order. It's discipline. It's having your mind and your identity fully locked in. So I want to break this down to you in a way that everybody can understand. Our brains, your brain, is hit with over 11 million bits of information every single day. But our conscious mind can only process about 40 to 50 of them at once. But what happens to the rest of the information that we go through? So there's a filter in your mind called the reticular activating system, the RAS. That filter decides what you notice, what you ignore, and what you believe. That filter acts almost like an Instagram algorithm for your brain. Your RAS listens to your thoughts like strict commands. It's almost like Google Maps. Google Maps does not care about where you should go. It just follows the direct destination that you type in. So whenever you tell yourself that I'm lazy or that I'm not enough or I can't focus, your brain goes, cool, got it. And it starts to show you this proof in your life. For example, when I was in a very tough place in my life, I remember going onto Instagram, and every single time I would pop on, I would see these guys in Bali with abs, crushing it, making so much more money than I was. And my self-talk started to say that you're behind, or you're not doing enough, or you'll never catch up. And I realized that voice doesn't come directly from Instagram. That voice comes from the identity that you've been feeding yourself all week. You've trained your mind to see lack, so now someone else's wins, your friend's wins, your brother's wins, feels like your loss. So I want to break this down in a way where you can walk away and start speaking to yourself with so much strength, speaking to yourself with so much love, and help you understand why self-talk is so important. So I think about in moments like right now, as I'm going through a bit of a identity growth, and where I have everything prepared, I have everything in front of me, but in the moment, your brain will start saying things like, you're not ready for this. You can't do this. You can't post content. You can't speak about this. And really, it's in the moment being able to catch that and reframe it and telling yourself, I'm locked in. I got this. God's got me. Because what happens is your brain starts to notice that momentum, and it starts to notice that opportunity. It starts to notice that peace in your voice. And us as humans, we don't act based on what we know. We act based on what we believe about ourselves. So what I'm about to do is I have this full entire layout in front of me, but I'm going to get off of it because I realize about myself is as I'm reading something in front of me, I can't fully be here. So I'm going to teach this based on my experience and what has helped me so much. So every single one of us have a subconscious identity, and it runs 90% of our life. And everything that we see online on this show, on this live, when we're listening to music, feeds into your subconscious identity. And what I want you to take away today is the roadmap for how you can start to train that subconscious mind. Because you train it every single day by what you see, what you hear, and what you do. Now, when I was first starting my business, I remember feeling very insecure. I felt very lost. I felt very broken. And I had no idea really what I was doing. And of course, I've grown so much in the past couple of years, but it's not because I've read so much self-development books. It's not because I've watched David Goggins every single day. It's because I have consciously in my mind, in this moment, right now, on this live, being nervous, telling myself, hey, we're good, we're disciplined, we're meant to do this. Everything happens for a reason. And I think about it where we go through different experiences every day. We go through different times in life where we get the opportunity to level up. And it's up to us in that moment to accept that, to accept God's gift to us of leveling up and saying, hey, I'm built for this. I'm meant to be here on this live, to be sharing this with you, rather than falling back and hiding and saying, I'm not built for this. I'm not enough. I'm not ready to teach. I say this because, as I go on live and I share this type of information, sometimes I want to be so perfect. Sometimes I want to have everything down and I have such a thing prepped out and planned, but then my brain's just not there. So I use this as an opportunity for myself to grow as I'm teaching this topic for you. But I'm going to go back to it, and I'm going to go back to what I have prepped because it is really good, and I know this will help a lot of people. And I'm going to think more of the recording later rather than the actual live in the moment. So myself as a man, it was very hard for me to learn how to love and learn how to love myself. And I will tell every single one of you guys right now, the men that are listening and the women, that we have to understand that self-love is about self-respect. It's about doing the things that we say we're going to do. But I want to explain this in a way that I wrote out earlier, is most men were never taught how to love themselves in a masculine way, especially in this generation where we're raised on hustle, we're raised on highlight reels, we're raised on comparison. Nobody ever stopped to teach us how to actually build inner safety. Nobody ever taught us self-security. And most men think that love has to be soft or emotional or passive, but real self-love, again, is respect. And the way I've seen it many, many times in this generation is most men do not respect themselves because they simply do not do what they say they're going to do. You make promises to yourself and you break them. You set standards for yourself, but you quit as soon as it gets uncomfortable. So what our subconscious starts to learn is, I can't trust me. I'm not consistent, and I don't deserve that life that I see on social media that other people are living. So here is the big shift that I want you guys to take away is when you stop lying to yourself, you start actually respecting yourself. And when you start respecting yourself, that's when love starts to grow within you. So let's talk about how to fix this. And let's talk about it in a way where it's an experiment, where you can try it for yourself. Because what I've come to realize is you don't feel your way into self-love. You rebuild trust with yourself one decision at a time. So this is the part where I can calm down because I wrote a lot of different things. I wrote an article today and studied it. But when it comes to the step-by-step, I can kind of just chill out and not have to perform so much. But this is where I'm comfortable. There's 3 steps that I want you to do. Those of you guys who are listening here on Instagram, make sure to tune in, make sure to take notes on this. And then everyone here on YouTube, Facebook, make sure to take notes. The way we rebuild trust with ourselves is, number 1, you speak it before you see it. The idea is that our brain does not believe what is true, it believes what is repeated. So type it in the chat, repetition is king. What you want to do is to start speaking over yourself about the identity that God has already gave you. What does that mean? You start saying, I'm focused, I'm disciplined, I'm abundant, I'm a builder, I'm chosen, I'm meant to be here, I'm good, Leo, we're good, you're here for a reason. And you say those things out loud, and you say it out loud every single morning, not because it's true yet, but because it's who you're becoming. So that's number 1. It is speak it before you see it. Number 2, move like him. Move like him. Ask yourself, if I already believed I was that man, how would I move today? The question is, if I already believe that in 2 years, I'm going to be incredibly successful in many different capacities in my life, I'm going to be in a very happy relationship, my business is doing well, I'm making great money, how would I then move? Would I scroll for an hour or would I open my Bible? Would I skip the gym or would I train like Kobe Bryant trains? Would I break promises to myself or would I protect my word like it's gold? The idea here is we ask ourselves is, if I was already that person, how would I move? Self-love grows when you align your actions with your future identity, not your feelings. So I want you guys to start getting used to becoming this person and used to stepping in as this version of yourself, which is going to be very, very uncomfortable for many of you. It's very uncomfortable for me right now, stepping into this voice, stepping into this person that I know I am, and I know that I'm called to be this person, but being live right here, knowing that there's hundreds of people watching, it gets a little bit nerve-wracking where you start to say like, hey, am I meant to be that person? Am I being too much? Am I being too harsh? And that's why, today's live is a lot more shaky with me speaking, because I'm still going through this same process. But I've done it year after year in my life where I've understood that the goals that I have require a man that is different, that is more built, that is more disciplined. So in that moment, I have to understand that I have to become this new self and practice it, even if it's not comfortable, because that's what allows us to step into this identity. That's what allows us to become this person who is comfortable in this new self, is by being uncomfortable enough times where you get used to it. So while I didn't know that I would have an imperfect moment here of not being able to go through my notes, I use this as a point in time where this is literally the process. You do hard things. You work out consistently. You go live. You share your words and you put yourself out there before you're ready, because it acts as repetition of being that person. So that's number 2, which is to move like you're already that person. Number 3 is to stop breaking your own heart. Every single time that you say you're going to do something and you don't, you teach your subconscious mind that your word does not mean a thing. It's like dating someone who keeps ghosting you and eventually you stop trusting them. A lot of men right now are living in that dynamic with themselves. But if you truly want to start loving yourself, where you trust your words and you look in the mirror and you enjoy the person that you see, then you have to start keeping your word. You have to start being so solid with your word where you understand that if you say something, it's going to get done. This is where it begins, and this is where it starts. So the challenge I have for every single one of you is to pick one action this week that your future self, the man that God is building, would never skip. Whether it's working out, whether it's journaling, whether it's making that one call, do that every single day this week without negotiating with yourself. And I want you to do it like your identity depends on it. Because it does. You're not waiting to become him, you're training for him. Okay, let me put these notes away. I completed the notes. I want to speak just off the cuff here for a second. In my life, I have every single year had a very hard moment in my life where I fall down in my business, or I get distracted and I stop doing all the good habits in my life, or something gets me down and it keeps me down for a period of time. And I always sit back and I realize, Leo, what are you doing? Like, what is it that you're waiting on? And I go back to this simple knowledge that it's up to us to think about that version of ourselves that we want to become, right? Because every single one of you guys have goals. Every single one of you guys have goals. You know that you want to achieve more. And it's probably along the lines of feeling more freedom in your life, feeling more free in your finances, more free from a W-2, more free from your own mental prison that you live in every single day. And you might have dreams of traveling the world, of becoming someone that is more confident, becoming someone that is more charismatic, becoming someone that is fearless in every single way. And if we understand that we have those goals, then we understand that there is a version of ourselves that is living that every single day. And we have to just ask ourselves, what is that gap? What is the gap between who I am right now and the person that I want to become? So I'll speak in my life. I have built my business in a place where I'm very happy with my growth, right? I've built a 7-figure business by 22 years old. I'm working out consistently. I have built a great brand, but I understand the next place that I want to get to, the next direction that I want to get to. Someone who's very God-led, someone who's very fearful, someone who's able to speak very eloquently about all these topics so everybody who's listening can feel that impact just from my words. I know right now I'm not that person naturally. So I have to visualize that person and say, what is that gap and what is that 26-year-old version of Leo doing that I'm not currently doing? And how is that 26-year-old version of Leo speaking that I'm not currently speaking? And this is how you can speed run your identity. This is how you can speed up the process where it doesn't take 10 years to become that version of yourself. It could take 2 years, or it could take 2 months for that matter. It changed my life understanding that every single day you are your greatest project. Every single day you're going to learn more about yourself. The 2 books you should be reading is the Bible and the book about yourself, which really, in order sometimes to read about the book about yourself, you're going to have to read a bunch more books. You're going to have to experience more. You're going to have to travel more and see more life. And really, I want to call every single one of you guys to understand that the way you speak to yourself is the exact reason you are currently where you are in your life. I am where I am because of all the words, all the thoughts, all the decisions that I have made. And if you understand that for yourself, you'll be very, very careful of the way you speak to yourself. A question that I'll typically ask myself is, would I let somebody else say to my younger brother or my future son or my best friend, would I let myself say the things to him or someone else say the things to him that I'm saying to myself? And if the answer is no, then we have to reevaluate the way we speak to ourselves. That question alone has changed my entire life, has changed the entire way I see every song that I listen to, every word that I say, every reel that I watch. I do it with so much presence because I know that it's all a repetition. It's all a repetition that eventually builds the life that we live. And I would pray that each of you listening can see your life in a way where 3 months from now, your life is going to be the way it is because of how you treated these next 3 months. And if we can understand that, then we can get excited about changing our life in these next 3 months. Like, what are the habits and what are the changes? What are the words that will allow us to absolutely evolve in these next 90 days and change the way we view ourselves in the mirror, change the way we talk to ourselves when we're at the gym, change the way we show up when we make content? And now I'm speaking to the people who are wanting to build something or are building something already. I'm speaking to the people who know that they're meant for more and know that they have this calling inside of them to create. And those of you who are still listening, those of you who are here, those of you who are listening much later, watching this recording much, much later, I want to call you to sit and think about what God has been calling you to do and who he's been calling you to be, and not looking at every single day the instances that happen to you like a mistake. Rather, you look at everything as data for you. You look at everything as a touch point for you to say that might just be God nudging you to look into that, to become that person. Because when you become that person who is confident, who is charismatic, who has a strong backbone, now all of a sudden, so many opportunities are opened up to you. So many new people are shown to you. And I think that that is the place where I have conversations with you guys, of course, off of live, whether it's in person or it's a DM or it's a call. It is always you realizing that God has been calling you to something greater for so long. And finally you understand it and you realize it and you sit back and you say, wow, if I just for the next 90 days focused on this, if I just for the next 90 days spoke to myself as if I was already that successful person, then my life might just change in the next 90 days. And because your life changes, so does your family, so does your spouse, your future kids, so does your team, so do your friends' life, so does everyone's life around you starts to change just because maybe you saw this live and you were saying, hey, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something to this self-talk thing that I can start to implement. Right now, even as you're listening to this live, how are you speaking to yourself? Now, for YouTube here, I'm gonna end this shortly. I'm gonna keep going on Instagram so I can bring my phone around. But ask yourself the question of what has my mind been saying to myself in these past 4 hours? And if I ask you that question, if we're doing a coaching call, just me and you, if I ask you what your mind has been saying to yourself the past 4 hours, we can pretty much predict what the next 90 days is going to look like if you didn't make a change. It's going to look like the sum of those thoughts that you're currently having. So I know I'm repeating myself over and over again, but if we can just look at the scope of the next 90 days as our blueprint, it's an open canvas for you to create whatever you want to create. And what we have to do right now is decide, how can we 180 switch the way we talk to ourselves? Instead of saying, I'm tired, I'm lazy, I'm not enough, you start saying, I'm focused, I'm abundant, I'm built for this. And you completely 180 change the way you speak to yourself. And now your subconscious starts to rewire itself into this new version of you that is so much more confident, that sees opportunities differently. How much is your life going to change in the next 90 days? This is the whole topic that I wanted to cover today. And so I can speak to my younger self for a second. Leo, you are in a position where you are growing and you are doing it publicly. And everything that you're teaching right now is exactly what you have done year after year to break through. But moments like this, putting yourself out there, is what forces you to be uncomfortable and forces you to grow in the moment. And that way, I don't have to wait 90 days. I don't have to wait a year to evolve or to become a better version of myself. I can force myself to go through uncomfortable repetitions. And because if I go through something as uncomfortable as this is, for example, messing up, of course, it doesn't seem like I'm messing up, but in my mind, if I can go through something as uncomfortable as messing up in public as this new version of myself, then all of the little repetitions aren't as difficult. So if I could do a couple of those every single day publicly or to friends, family, team members, then all of a sudden I can learn at an incredibly fast pace. And tomorrow be a different man than I was yesterday. Because I learned such a big lesson in that moment. And I think this is something I'm discovering. I'm kind of not even paying attention to the live here. I'm kind of just speaking for myself. Is I have a philosophy that if you have the right accountability in your life and you show the right people the man or the woman that you're wanting to become, and you set that standard, and every day you try to hit that standard and you try to beat that standard. And because you do that, every day you get used to beating that standard of that new person that you want to set yourself up to, that a bad day comes around, let's just say on a Wednesday, a bad Wednesday comes around and you'll fall back to that standard that you set. Which is a really good philosophy that I've lived by, that I just haven't realized that that is what I live by. So I'm going to use this time for a minute to better construct this craft of a message. But this idea that the greater version of yourself, okay, there, for example, with myself, I want to be someone in the next 2 years that is much more confident, much more charismatic, much more patient, is making 5-10x the amount of money. Okay. So if I know that that version of Leo exists, I'm going to set my standard there. Now, my daily task when I wake up is, how do I beat that standard of what that version of Leo is living? And if I now have that mentality and I beat that standard every single day, I start to get used to living in this standard. So when I have a bad day, I know I'm repeating myself, but when I have a bad day, I'm going to fall back to that standard. And there's going to be moments where your old self comes back. You want to be impatient. You want to be angry at a certain person. Your old self wants to come back. But if every day you just set out the mentality of how can I beat the standard of my new self, then it's impossible to fail in the next 90 days of becoming that person. And this is the way that we learn so incredibly fast, is by beating the standard and creating a new standard for ourselves. So wherever you currently are in your life, if you're feeling a little bit lost, if you're feeling a little bit behind, all I want you to do is to create a new standard, create a new version of yourself, create this person who you know exists. I promise you that person exists, as long as you can see it in your mind. And you create that person, you tell yourself, this is what this person does and says, and every single day, how they live, and that becomes, again, the standard. I fear that if I continue speaking, I'm just going to say the same thing every single for the next 30 minutes. So I'm gonna end it here for the YouTube, and then I'm gonna keep talking it here. This is how I craft my craft, is by speaking it out every single day. And my identity, I force myself to no longer say the words of my old self. I force myself to no longer say that I'm lazy. I force myself to no longer say that I can't do something or that I'm angry. And every single time I say it, I just check myself and say, hey, Leo, do you notice that you just said that? Let's take it back and look at the standard. Are you beating the standard today? I hope that I said it enough times where somebody understood this and somebody, takes action on it, because I promise you, this is what has changed my life so many times where if you have followed me for a while, whether you're here on YouTube or on Instagram, if you had followed me for a while, you know that every few months I change and I evolve, and it's because I don't let myself go back to that old self. And I don't want you to either. So YouTube, we'll be back same time, same place. We got a lot of amazing things going. I used this live to build the craft, and I hope that you got some value from that type of building. All right. Peace out. We'll see you guys tomorrow.